Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something that, well, it always feels a bit sci-fi, doesn't it? Jetpacks. But we're not just talking about, fantasy stuff here, dreaming about flying around. We're actually looking at the real market. It's global, and it's growing really fast. We've got this fascinating market research report from Cognitive Market Research that we're digging into today. Our mission really is to cut through that fantasy layer and see what's actually happening, the real numbers, the projections. And just to give you a taste, the report finds the global market was worth nearly $200 million back in 2021.
Just about, yeah. 199.8 million.
Right. And it's projected to blast off to over $2.2 billion by 2033.
That's billion with a B.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this because, wow, that's more than a tenfold increase in, just over a decade. So here's where it gets really interesting. How is this actually happening? And what does it mean?
Absolutely. And that leap, it's not just some wild guess. The report actually maps it out. It projects the market hitting $450 million by 2025.
Okay, so that's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, on its way to that $2.28 billion figure by 2033. And this means a really robust compound annual growth rate, the CAGR of 22.5%.
22.5% compounded annually.
That's right. And what's really striking here is it's not like a sudden spike we're seeing. It's consistent high double-digit growth over a fairly short time. It just signals pretty clearly this isn't some niche fad. It's a real emerging industry taking shape.
Okay, so if jetpacks are really taking off globally, what does that picture look like in different places? Let's maybe start with North America. The report put that region at, just over $82 million in 2021?
$22.3 million, yeah.
And it's forecasted to hit over $180 million by 2025.
$181.8 million to be precise.
Right, and then accelerating to nearly $900 million by 2033.
$885.4 million with a KGR of almost 22%, 21.9% actually.
Still very strong. So what's driving that kind of growth there?
Well, if you dive into the specifics for North America, the U.S. is clearly the big player. It started at $59.1 million in 2021 and is projected to grow to over $600 million by 2033.
Wow, that's more than a tenfold jump just in the U.S.?
Yeah, a KGR of 21.4%. So really strong, consistent growth. Canada is also showing really robust expansion. It was $17.1 million back in 21, projected to hit nearly $200 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 22.5%, slightly higher than the U.S., actually.
Interesting.
But what's really notable maybe is Mexico. It's starting from a smaller base, just $6.1 million, but it's projected to reach over $80 million by 2033.
Okay.
And that gives it the fastest growth rate in the region, a CAGR of 24.1%.
24%, so faster than the U.S. and Canada. Any thoughts on why?
Well, the report doesn't specify exactly why, but you could speculate, right? Maybe early adoption in certain industries. Or perhaps government uses where that kind of tech offers a unique advantage. Hard to say for sure, but the number is definitely eye-catching.
That is fascinating. So dynamic growth across North America, led by the U.S., but with Mexico growing fastest. Okay. Is this just, a North American thing, or is Europe seeing this too? Let's look across the Atlantic. How's our market shaping up?
Europe's definitely part of the story. It had a market value of about $58.2 million in 2021, and it's set to reach nearly $640 million by 2033.
Also a very significant jump.
Oh, absolutely. Growing at a KGR of 22.1%. Very healthy.
And within Europe, any standouts?
Well, yeah, the United Kingdom really jumps out. It's projected to go from $12.2 million to almost $150 million.
$148.9 million.
Exactly. And its CAGR is 23.2%, even higher than the overall European rate.
Any indication why the UK is growing so fast?
Again, the report focuses on the numbers, but one could infer maybe faster adoption in specialized fields, things like emergency response, maybe even private security, places where that agility really counts.
Makes sense.
Germany and France are right behind, though. Germany's looking at $115.6 million by 2033. France at $83.1 million, both with really strong CAGRs, too, 22.8% and 22.4% respectively.
Okay.
And then you've got Italy, Russia, Spain, even smaller places like Luxembourg contributing. It shows it's pretty widespread across Europe.
All right, so North America, Europe, both showing really strong, consistent growth. But you mentioned, and the report highlights, one region where the growth gets, truly eye-popping for you. Let's talk Asia-Pacific.
Yeah, this is where the numbers get even more dramatic. Asia-Pacific shows the highest overall regional growth rate. We're talking a CAGR of 23.8%.
23.8% average annual growth.
Right, so it goes from $43.3 million in 2021 to a projected $562.5 million by 2033.
Huge jump. And who's leading the charge there?
China is the regional leader in terms of market size. It started at $17.1 million, expected to reach over $240 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 24.6%. Very fast.
Okay.
But if you're looking for pure acceleration, the highest country-level CAGR in the region, that's India.
India. Okay, what are we seeing there?
India boasts a remarkable 25.7% CAGR. It jumps from just under $5 million, $4.9 in 2021, to over $77 million, 77.1 mm by 2033.
25.7. That's incredible growth.
It really is. And you often see this, right? In large developing economies, there can be this huge demand for new ways to solve logistics or infrastructure challenges. Jetpacks might fit into that somehow.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's not just China and India. Japan, South Korea, Australia, Southeast Asia, they're all showing robust growth, too. It's a region really embracing this technology.
That Asia-Pacific picture is definitely something else. Does that kind of momentum carry over into other developing economies? What about, say, South America?
South America is also seeing significant growth, yes. Brazil leads the way there in market size. It's projected to rise from $4.1 million in 2021 to nearly $48 million, 47.7 million by 2033.
Okay, solid growth.
Yeah, a CGR of 22.6%. Argentina is also showing strong growth. But here's where it gets really interesting again with growth rates.
Colombia.
Yeah, it shows a particularly rapid climb. It started at less than $1 million, about $0.7 million. But it's projected to hit $11 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 25.8%.
Another rate over 25%. Higher than India's.
Almost, yeah, very close. But then there's Peru.
Okay.
Peru starts even smaller, just $0.4 million in 2021. But it's projected to reach $7.3 million.
Yeah.
And its CAGR. It's the single highest country-level CAGR across all the regions in the report.
Get out. What is it?
An astonishing 26.7%.
26.7% in Peru.
Wow.
Yeah.
It means the market there is basically doubling every 3 years or so. It's incredible.
What could be driving that? I mean, that's faster than anywhere else.
It really points to maybe very specific critical uses emerging there, perhaps in places where, traditional roads or infrastructure are challenging, mining maybe, emergency access. That kind of agile personal mobility could be incredibly valuable.
That's fascinating. And Chile?
Chile's also a significant contributor, yeah, adding to the region's overall strong expansion. What's amazing is just how diverse these growth hotspots are.
It really shows this is a global phenomenon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not just concentrated to usual economic powerhouses. So let's round out the globe. What about the Middle East and Africa? Are we seeing expansion there too?
We are indeed. It demonstrates the truly widespread reach of this market. So in the Middle East and Africa region, you see Egypt projected to grow from about $0.8 million to $9 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 22.7%.
Solid.
Turkey shows an even higher growth rate, 23.1% CAGR, jumping from $1.5 million to nearly $18 million, 17 on my NAM. The rest of the Middle East category also contributes quite a bit.
And in Africa?
South Africa looks robust, growing from $1.2 million to nearly $15 million, 14 point AM. That's a 23.4% CAGR.
Strong growth there too.
Yeah, and Nigeria is also mentioned part of this expanding picture, although starting from a smaller base currently. This region often leapfrogs technologies, adopting new things quickly if they solve a problem, especially around logistics or access. Jetpacks might just fit that bill.
Okay, so we've gone region by region, country by country almost. North America, Europe, Asia-Pacific setting records, South America with Peru's incredible rate, Middle East, Africa. The growth is, it's undeniably spectacular everywhere. But stepping back, what does this all really mean for you, our listener? Why is knowing these specific numbers, these CAGRs, actually matter?
Well, I think when you pull it all together, a few key things really stand out. First, just the sheer consistency of it. These high double-digit CAGRs, they're almost everywhere, across nearly all regions, most countries. That really signals this is a genuine emerging industry. It's not just, a few rich hobbyists buying a new toy. This looks like a market finding real footing.
Right, it's broad-based growth.
Exactly. Second, the scale and the speed.
Yeah.
Going from under $200 million to over $2.2 billion globally in just 12 years. That's transforming something that felt like pure fantasy into a tangible economic force.
It really is. And the third point.
Well, it connects back to that global picture. The growth isn't just in the U.S. or Europe. You've got China, India, Peru, Colombia, South Africa. Powerhouse economies and rapidly developing nations are both showing significant investment and market expansion. It's incredibly diverse geographically.
Okay, so it's real, it's big, it's fast, and it's global.
Precisely. And, this raises that crucial question. What are people actually doing with these jetpacks to drive this kind of money, this kind of growth?
Yeah, because the report gives us the market size, the growth, but not so much the why.
Right. And this trajectory, it can't just be fueled by novelty, can it? Not at this scale. It strongly suggests we're moving beyond just recreational dreams. We're likely seeing real-world utility emerging.
So what kind of utility are we talking about?
Well, think about those initial, maybe high-value applications, things like a rapid response for emergency services, getting paramedics or firefighters into really hard-to-reach spots quickly,
Okay, I can see that.
or critical industrial inspections. Imagine inspecting a huge wind turbine or the underside of a bridge without needing complex scaffolding or helicopters. A jetpack could be perfect.
Right, efficiency and safety maybe.
Potentially. And then maybe niche defense or security operations, where that speed and, crucially, that vertical access gives you a real edge.
So specialized uses first.
Exactly. It's probably not, your daily commute solution just yet, not mass market personal transport, but these high-value problem-solving applications. They justify the cost, they drive the development now, and that could pave the way for broader use down the line.
That really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? From just this cool idea to a tool that's actually potentially solving real problems and creating serious economic value. What an incredible deep dive this has been into the jetpack market. It's clear this technology is moving from dream to, well, a multi-billion-dollar reality, and it seems poised for just exponential growth. It's really not science fiction anymore. So as you think about all this, maybe consider what comes next. What kind of infrastructure might we need? What about safety regulations globally to handle a market expanding this fast? What might our skies even look like in, say, 10 or 15 years? And how does society start to adapt to this potential new dimension of personal mobility? Something to think about.
Ready to jump into some tech that feels like it's straight out of science fiction but is actually taking off? Today we're doing a deep dive into the global jetpack market. And, this isn't just about cool gadgets anymore. It's a sector that's making real, measurable progress. Everything we're going to talk about, all the insights, they come straight from cognitive market research. Our mission, like always, is to pull out the most vital bits of info for you from this material so you're up to speed fast.
Yeah, and we have a pretty clear path for this dive. We're going to look at the key drivers really pushing the market. Then we'll get into the big challenges it's facing, the roadblocks. And finally, we'll explore the really exciting trends that are shaping what comes next. By the end, you should have a solid yet quick grasp of this pretty amazing sector.
Okay, let's kick things off then. What exactly is propelling the jetpack market? What are the main things driving growth right now?
Well, one of the core drivers the research points to is this growing need for very specialized personal mobility. Yeah. And tactical aerial solutions too. What's really interesting isn't just the cool factor. It's more about practical uses. Think rapid response, super maneuverable flight for, say, emergency responders getting into really tricky spots, or search and rescue teams in awful terrain, military units needing that quick vertical lift.
Right, in places where helicopters or even drones might struggle.
Exactly. Places where those larger craft just can't operate effectively. Tight spaces, complex environments.
That makes a lot of sense, getting people or gear into tough spots quickly. But what about the tech itself? What's actually making this feasible now? What's the foundation?
It really boils down to some big steps forward in propulsion tech and, crucially, lightweight materials. We're not talking about those old, clunky, heavy designs anymore. Think modern composites like advanced carbon fibers, stuff that cuts weight dramatically but is still incredibly strong. And then you have these compact, much more efficient microturbines or even electric propulsion systems starting to emerge. These improvements have really pushed the thrust-to-weight ratios way up. So today's jetpacks are, well, frankly, safer, way more agile, and a lot more energy efficient than anything that came before.
Sure, but tech like that, cutting-edge stuff, it can't be cheap. So how important is investment for a market like this to, really get off the ground?
Oh, investment is absolutely vital. And we're seeing a significant boost coming from the defense and aerospace sectors. And get this, it's not just theoretical research anymore. Several countries, private contractors too, they're actively looking at jetpacks for very specific, high-stakes uses. The main goal, Giving soldiers that unique vertical mobility on difficult battlefields, it could, potentially change how some tactical operations work. It's less about everyone having one, more about strategic, high-impact capabilities right now.
Okay, so those are some strong tailwinds. But like any new technology, there have got to be obstacles. What are the main challenges jetpacks are facing today?
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest constraints highlighted in the research is, well, it's sort of two things: limited payload capacity and really short flight times. Most current models, they can only carry a single person, maybe some light gear, for maybe 5, perhaps 10 minutes max before they need more fuel or a recharge.
Wow, 5 to 10 minutes. That's not very long.
No, it isn't. And that immediately makes them impractical for, say, traveling any real distance or for serious commercial logistics. It really limits their use to those very specific short burst kind of applications we talked about.
I'm guessing the cost doesn't help either. That must be a barrier to wider use.
You hit the nail on the head. They are still incredibly expensive, both to build and to maintain. You're using highly specialized components, advanced materials. They're just inherently costly to source and put together. So yeah, that definitely puts them in a niche category for now, mass market adoption. That's still quite a way off.
Which brings up a really important point. What about safety and
Yeah,
regulations? Is there a clear plan for how these things will be governed?
that's a huge one, a major challenge. The very nature of flying these things high speed, low altitude, it naturally brings safety concerns. But beyond just the physics of it, there's a real lack of clear rules. Airspace regulations, pilot licensing standards, especially if you think about civilian use or wider commercial stuff. These regulatory gaps, they create a lot of friction. It makes scaling the technology really difficult. Until there's a solid, clear framework in place, wider adoption is going to be, well, very tough.
Okay, so we've looked at the current picture, the drivers, the challenges. Let's shift gears a bit. What about the future? What innovations or trends are coming up that might help overcome these limits?
What's really fascinating here, I think, is the emergence of hybrid and even fully electric-powered jetpacks. Now, this could be a real game changer. Why? Because these models promise to be much quieter, more sustainable too. That makes them potentially a much better fit for urban areas or commercial settings where, noise and emissions are big deals. It's a move away from just relying on jet fuel.
And it feels like maybe public perception is changing too, like moving beyond just seeing them as stunts or sci-fi toys.
Exactly. That's another key trend. We're seeing more jetpacks used in public demos, sponsored events, that sort of thing. And it does seem to be working. It helps shift how people see them. They start looking less like just a novelty and maybe more like a specialized but legitimate tool or even transport method in some cases.
Mhm.
That's a really important step, just normalizing the idea of them.
Okay, so power sources are evolving, public perception is shifting. What about the actual experience for the pilot? Any advancements in the interfaces?
Yes, absolutely. And if you connect this back to making them safer and easier to use,
Mhm.
the integration of things like heads-up displays, HUDs, and even augmented reality navigation systems is a really big trend. This kind of next-gen interface, it gives the pilot so much more awareness, critical info overlaid right onto their view. It boosts safety, makes flying them more intuitive, which is, super important for military use, or complex commercial jobs where you need precision.
Right, seeing navigation or system data without looking down.
Exactly. It keeps your eyes up, focused on where you're going.
So, wrapping up this deep dive then, it seems pretty clear the global jetpack market is, well, really taking flight, you could say, driven by innovation, by strategic defense needs. But it's definitely hitting some turbulence too: regulations, technical limits, cost. Still, the path forward looks promising, especially with things like electrification and that cool AR tech. And just a reminder, all these insights came directly from cognitive market research.
Yeah, it's a dynamic space. And maybe a final thought for you to consider as you process all this. Think about how this continued progress in propulsion may be coupled with those regulatory frameworks eventually falling into place. How could that change things? Not just for specialized military ops, but maybe, just maybe, for things like personal short hop travel, or even how we design cities in the future. It really makes you wonder about the wider impact this kind of shift could have down the line, something to ponder.